I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Caitlin Coombs. Later in the show, I'll be speaking with a member of WildSafeBC about wildlife safety here in the Northeast.
But first, youth mental health has been a fervent topic of conversation on social media around town recently, and I'm sure off of social media as well. And there are several local organizations offering services for youth here in Fort St. John and beyond. So to talk a bit about those services, we're joined now by Julie Hintermeister from Saplings Mental Health Services and Asuncion Santa Maria from Foundry, Fort St. John. Good morning to each of you.
Good morning, Dub. I like that we're manifesting. One day I'll be a doctor, but unfortunately not yet.
Thank you so much for both of you being here this morning. I really appreciate your time. Let's talk about Saplings first, because, Foundry's been in the news lots as well, but Saplings, you recently kind of had lots of stuff in the news and what's going on with Northern Health. You're now sort of joining forces with the Fort St. John Association for Community Living. But first of all, what is Saplings and what are sort of the services you offer there, Julia?
Yeah, absolutely. So Saplings Mental Health Services came to be in 2021. Myself and my colleague Laura Honey founded it when we were seeing news articles coming through of kids going to the ER and not receiving services in a timely manner and being discharged. And so we connected with Northern Health and started working in the emergency department and started to find there was a lot of kids presenting. And from there, the services grew. We got more contracts with Northern Health for mental health and substance use, for early psychosis intervention. We started working with the ministry around forensics for children, for youth in the justice system. We do life skills, we do groups, we work in the schools, and we've just kind of gotten grown and grown and grown.
Yeah, and you've been doing this up until, I guess, the fall where things changed. And this is where it gets a little murky about exactly what's happening, because it was understood, I think, or suggested at the time that the contract was ending and that there'd now be no real goings on between the two. What has happened since then in terms of your relationship with Northern Health? And I think specifically, as I understand it, the relationship with the emergency kind of side of it, emergency room services.
Yeah, we continue to work really closely with Northern Health. We have, as I said, several contracts with them. The emergency department, it's going to change what it looks like moving forward in the future. We will no longer be in the emergency department from the end of March, but we're still in conversation with Northern Health about what that will look like and how youth can still be supported when they come through the ER.
Yeah, and I think essentially Northern Health is going to take over that in the emergency room specifically, or
That's
the department.
Right. That's right.
And then offer those same services that you were offering previously in that capacity in the area, correct?
I think that's the plan and the hope. We're still trying to figure out the logistics of that. But we still work really closely with Northern Health for lots of our programming. Yeah.
And then, let's talk a bit about your work now with the Fort St. John Association for Community Living. I've seen it both called a merger and joining forces. What is that, and what does that mean for the services you offer, and again, even
Absolutely.
For the community, the association?
Yeah. So back in the summer of 2025, Laura and I were looking at how can we increase our capacity. We have an amazing group of staff, but all of us are frontline. Even Laura and I as directors, we work frontline. I'm in the emergency department. And so it's hard to grow an organization when you're so tied up in the front line. And so we started to look at other organizations who had capacity, who had ability to support us. And Fort St. John Association, they the Association for Community Living, they have this mandate to serve individuals with complex needs. And that is truly what we're doing. We're serving those with comorbid mental health and substance use and addiction. We're serving those with psychosis. We have an overlap of clientele. And so we started meeting with them, and it just felt like a really good fit. And so we've become kind of the clinical wing, is what I've kind of been explaining to people, the clinical wing of the Association of Community Living. And with that, we've been embraced into this really substantial organization that's been in existence for 65 years, and all that comes with that. For those who access our services, nothing has changed. Same clinicians, same offices, the front line continues as it always has, but on the back end, we have so much more support and capacity.
I see. All right. Let's talk Asuncion with you for a moment about Foundry. Again, I mean, it's a newish thing to Fort St. John, and you've got lots of cool things happening in the future. But tell us a bit about what Foundry is and sort of the services you offer to kind of youth in terms of mental health and beyond.
Yes, thank you, Tob. So Foundry is a BC-wide movement, and currently there are 19 centers in operation. There are 16 more being built, including Fort St. John. And it's an integrated youth services model. So all the services are located in one space. And most, if not all, of the Foundry centers offer 5 core services. So that's mental health, substance use support. We also do primary care. So there will be a physician or more, one or more, and a nurse practitioner. There's also work and community services available, and it's very heavy in peer support. So those are the core services that we may offer. And what I like about Foundry is it serves 12 to 24. They're families and caregivers.
Yeah.
So caregiver is very broadly defined. It can be anybody helping a youth navigate their journey. And each center is very unique. So this center that we will have in Fort St. John will be highly informed on the community's feedback, on what we need. And that's a really great model, I think.
Yeah. And while you don't currently have a physical space, that's kind of coming along, and we're going to have more on that in the coming months and whatnot. The services are being offered right now, and I think that's kind of one of the advantages of Foundry is, someone can access services from really anywhere in the province from somebody who may not be specifically in Fort St. John, but nevertheless those services are offered, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So we do have Foundry Virtual. It's considered a one center as well.
Yeah.
And so Foundry Virtual is fully virtual. You can access the services using your phone by downloading an app or on your desktop, and all the services are free. It takes about 3 minutes to register.
Yeah.
And there's 2 phases to Foundry Virtual. You can register as a caregiver or as a youth. And when you go into the system, you'll see the array, the great menu of services available and resources.
Yeah. Okay. And this sort of is a question to both of you, I suppose, because I know I reached out to both of you separately, not knowing that you were already sort of, you obviously had a relationship and whatnot, so you kind of set up together that we should come together and talk a bit about that and how Foundry, Fort St. John, and Saplings kind of interact with each other. What does that look like? What's that relationship, and how does it benefit anybody who avails yourself of your services?
Well, what's been amazing about Foundry, I sit on the steering committee for Foundry, as well as many of the directors and leads of other community mental health agencies and services in our town. What is amazing about Fort St. John is we have lots of different organizations, and we all work really closely together. We all know each other really well.
Yeah.
There is so much work to be done that we have to partner, right? We have to come together. And so we work very, very closely in lots of different ways. And I think the benefit will be when Foundry does arrive and open its doors. The goal of Foundry is to actually have different organizations in the building, to be having people, to have a Saplings clinician in the building, to really be a center for the community. So yeah, we work closely together.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And to add to that, as Julia has mentioned, one of the nice things about Foundry is that some of the service providers are provided by different organizations as a contribution. So for example, in other Foundry centers, their health authority would have a nurse practitioner doing their practice within the Foundry space. We don't know yet how that's specifically going to look like for Fort St. John, but as Julia has said, there's different models and different contributions, and we're just really happy and grateful that all the different service providers and practitioners in our community are talking and working together on different levels.
Yeah. So the reason we asked you both here, of course, obviously late December and in this month too, we've kind of had a couple tragedies in this community with youth. And the conversation has been about, what are these services that are offered? There's always a question about what can we do that could have helped in some way or can help future in situations and whatnot. So I guess my biggest question to both of you, especially as a parent, is what are you looking for in your children? If you're not sure, I don't know if my child is struggling, I don't know what they're going through, for a variety of different reasons why that could be happening, that the child isn't just going to their parents and saying, I need help. Maybe they don't know how to ask that question. What can parents look for, and what can they do to say, maybe you need this and here's how you can do it, or can I bring you to the help that you might need?
Yeah. And, and I just want to honor the families in our community who over the years have experienced tragedies. You know, we do have a high rate of mental health concerns in our region. And there is no perfect answer, but what I will say is when we look at children and youth, we don't want to pathologize the experience of being a child or a youth. So if you have a 16-year-old who is nervous about their finals, who just failed their driver's license for the second time, whose partner just broke up with them, and they're teary and withdrawn and not eating at the table for a couple of weeks, that's a developmentally appropriate response to that stressful situation in that youth's life. But when you have a youth or a child and you're noticing that they're not engaged in the activities they used to love, they're irritable. So a lot of depression and anxiety looks like irritability in youth and teens. And I know everyone thinks all their teens are really irritable, but we're talking really, really irritable. Teariness, rage, quietness, difficulty focusing at school. If you're seeing that over 3 to 6 months, and you can't really point to why that's happening, it's really a good idea to start getting a professional involved. A lot of parents will say to me, this isn't my kid. Right? When you're feeling like that, it's a really good idea to get a professional involved. And that can be talking to someone at the school. That can be calling child and youth mental health. That can be going to Foundry. You can reach out to us at Saplings. There are people in the community who can help. And I know that it feels overwhelming and it feels like there's wait lists everywhere you go. But there are service providers out there, and I can speak for Saplings. We do our absolute best. If we can't help you, we will land you with someone who can.
The other side of this, I think I'd like to talk about too, is the cost of some of these things in terms of the financial barriers. There are some, because it's not just Canada Health doesn't just make everything free. So there are some things that have a cost to them, but not everything. Some of these services are there's a sort of I don't want to say free, but a low barrier version of it that we can get help to people that need it, correct? How where does that look like?
Absolutely. Child and Youth Mental Health is a free ministry-funded programming. All of our programs that are funded through Northern Health, mental health and substance use, early psychosis, all of that is free. Those are funded programs. Foundry is free. There is Community Bridge. Their services are all free and funded programming. So the dream is that cost would never be a barrier for a child accessing mental health services. There are, of course, private services throughout the town, the region, and beyond. You can do virtual across BC with a private therapist, but we do have a lot of free services locally. Yeah.
And to add to that, the Foundry model is very low barrier. Once we're in operation, young people can just walk in. There's no need for an appointment, or we try our best not to have a wait list, so you can see somebody the same day.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that my last question is, again, sort of related to what can we do. And if someone's listening right now wants to support the work you do in some way, is that a possibility? What could that look like for someone who's like, I've got time or I've got money to give? What could they do in a situation like that?
Go ahead first, Joy.
Well, through the Fort St. John Association for Community Living, they've just developed something called the Thrive Program. And the Thrive Program, all funds donated and collected towards the Thrive Program are going to support accessing psychological assessments and psych eds for youth and young adults. It's going to support, and those are really important, because if we don't know how our brain works, if we're struggling at school, that can increase our anxiety and depression, of course. They're going to support counseling services so that outside of our funded programs, we can even provide low barrier or free counseling. That program will also be supporting recreation, swimming passes, all kinds of stuff for the association clients as well as Saplings clients. So that's one big way that people can contribute directly to the work.
Yeah, on our part, we will be launching a capital campaign soon to help us with a new build that we're doing with our partners. And right now we already have an established youth advisory committee that meets every month and an established family advisory committee. Amazing group of people. If anyone is interested in being involved, come and have conversations with us. We would really like the voice of our community and our families to be heard. And that's the essence of those advisory committees. Those voices will be very essential in how the services of Foundry in the future will look like.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I really appreciate both of you coming by to talk to us today. By the way, I should say that Foundry FSJ and Saplings Mental Health Services have excellent websites with lots of information in addition to what you've just heard today. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you
so much.
You're very welcome. That was Julia Hintermeister and Asuncion Santa Maria here to talk about mental health in our community. We'll be right back to talk with WildSafeBC right after this.
The Bricks Friends and Family Sale is back. And for 4 days, we're extending our VIP offers to everyone. Get up to 30% off sofas, sectionals, bedroom, and dining furniture. Up to 40% off select mattresses. Plus, receive a 5% instant credit towards sleep accessories when you buy a mattress $7.99 or more. And buy more, save more. Get up to $1,000 off select major appliances. Some exclusions apply. See in-store for details. The Brick, saving you more.
Wash your car in one click with the Co-op Car Wash app. There's 2 ways to save using the app. Get a subscription for up to 4 washes per month at almost half the price. Or purchase 5 single washes and get the 6th one free. There's 2 ways to save at the 100th Street Co-op Car Wash location. The choice is yours. Download the Co-op Car Wash app today and use code CARWASH5 for a discount. That's CARWASH5.
Kick off the new year looking and feeling great. Hey, it's Amber from the Hair Bin, and during January, get a facial and receive 10% off Medi Spa and Dr. Belter facial products. Plus 10% off retail with any service all month long. We even offer hair systems if you're experiencing hair loss. And since we're celebrating 40 years in business this spring, every purchase gets you entered into our cash draw for 10 grand. Come see us at the Hair Bin or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and at hairbin.com.
For mouth-watering, gourmet-inspired artisan-style pizza, there's only one obvious choice: Olio's Pizzeria and Eatery. Enjoy one of their signature pizzas including pulled pork, Philly cheesesteak, nacho, chicken club, Mr. Mac, barbecue chicken, and more. Olio's also has amazing pastas, wings, wraps, and salads. Olio's Pizzeria and Eatery, Pizza of the North. Pick up, skip the dishes, DoorDash, or order online at oliospizzaandeatery.com.
Meeny, 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 miny, miny, mo. What you gonna order from? Olio's!
Winter's here. Are you ready? At Ace Instruments, we've got the heat you need. From Katadyn and Haslock heaters to electric heat tracing, we keep your site running in the cold. Plus, we manufacture and rent custom chemical injection packages, backed by specialized technicians ready to assist. With 3 locations and decades of experience, Ace delivers solutions that work when it matters the most. Need real service and answers? Choose Ace. Visit ace95.com or stop by today.
Tired of the same old sponsorships? Moose Media creates and hosts signature community events, pop-up markets, summer street concerts, holiday festivals that put your brand front and center. Our events team handles planning, promotion, live reads on air, digital invites, and on-site interviews to drive foot traffic and buzz. You get unique exposure in Fort St. John, plus performance metrics so you see exactly how it pays off. Ready for standout community marketing? Visit moosemediafsj.ca or call 250-787-7100. Moose Media, from algorithms to airwaves.
You can watch this show live on Facebook, catch the replays at energeticcity.ca, or be part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Caitlin Coombs. Wildlife sightings are a weekly occurrence here in the energetic city, from herds of deer crossing the road to waking up to find you're hosting moose in your front lawn, to the city posting wildlife sightings for the parks. Joining us now to talk about how to stay safe around wildlife is Tara Pejski, Columbia Basin Trust Support Coordinator with WildSafeBC. Thank you for joining us today, Tara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't we start kind of at the beginning? What is WildSafeBC? What do you guys do? Where we're located, and kind of, do you have a field of jurisdiction in the north?
So WildSafeBC is an organization through the BC Conservative Foundation. And basically, we're just here to help educate various communities about wildlife, how to stay safe, how to protect your yard, your community, school areas, things like that. And we are located throughout the province. So different coordinators might cover different areas. Sometimes if we don't have enough staff, other people will fill in to make sure that we're getting to the areas that are requesting help. But usually it's something that's done through each individual city, if that's something, a program that they would like to sponsor.
Okay. And so it's more focused on education. So let's talk a little bit about that. As I mentioned up here, a lot of our wildlife is deer, bear, and moose. We have some lovely parks, and we're just surrounded by nature. So of course, as you can imagine, nature sometimes wanders in to the city as well. What steps would you recommend people take to make sure that they are having these safe interactions with wildlife rather than taking risks that they don't know they're doing?
Absolutely. The number one thing that I would tell people to be aware of is that commonly when animals come into our community, they're looking for food. We're just a part of their natural environment. And so it's very common with a lot of our cities within British Columbia that our backyard is a mountain or a forested area. And so it does make sense that they wander through. And again, often they are looking for food. And so what is it that is attracting them to the area, and what can we do to help clean that up? So when it comes to deer and moose, it could be our gardens, certain trees that we plant in our yard or shrubbery could be a really nice meal for them. So something to be aware of, that if you are going to landscape your yard, you might want to have a conversation or do some research about what types of plants might deer want to come munch on versus which ones are not as appealing to them. If you're in an area where your landscaping is already well established, can you do something to protect them or to keep them safe? So that could be snow fencing, it could be electric fencing with fruit and nut trees. Those ones can be tricky because I know bears, for example, tend to like plums before they're ripe. They like them when they're little hard hockey pucks. And so do you pick them before they're ready to eat? Or do you put up some fencing to try and protect it until the fruit is actually ripe? So that's one thing to always be aware of, is basically what is it that they're after? What are they accessing? And then if you do happen to see wildlife, the number one thing is don't run. It is a natural instinct for all animals that when they see something running, their brains just say, chase it. It's no different than if you run from a dog will chase you. Bears will do the same. Cougars, bobcats, wolves, all that. It's just a natural animal instinct. And so you want to try and stay calm. You don't want to approach the animals ever. You don't want to feed the animals ever. A lot of animals like deer we might look at as harmless, but we want to make sure that we're not feeding them, and then they keep that natural wariness from humans, and hopefully don't want to get too close to us either.
And especially, I think, with that instinct to run, that is something that's difficult to combat when you're looking at bears, especially deer in particular, but also moose are just massive, and you really don't want that chasing you.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you do happen to see a moose, the best thing to do is to just back up and give it space. And if it is approaching you, if you're not able to get inside a building or inside a vehicle somewhere safe, then you want to put something large in between you, like a tree or something stable. You can usually tell that they're going to get ready to charge because their ears will go back and they'll put their head down. And that's them saying, I'm not a fan and I might do something about it. So you want to get something big and solid so that if they do end up charging, you've got something solid to protect you, because they can obviously do quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that's been happening up here is we've had some significant temperature changes in recent months. We had almost historic amounts of snow in December. It got really, really cold, and then all of a sudden it was really warm, and now we're back down to cold. Are there any concerns about wildlife getting confused or hibernating, and animals that we shouldn't normally be seeing at this time of year that we should now be keeping our eyes out for?
It's always a bit of a crapshoot how they're going to interpret the weather and when they're going to come out. And it's always good to be diligent. If it is bears, because I know that you mentioned that there was a cub that was active and got injured. So if maybe when it warmed up, they came out of hibernation, if that happens now, or if it's happening in the spring, when they do wake up, they're going to be quite hungry and they're going to want calories. And so again, it's really important to even look at your own yard and think, what type of calories could they access here? So they love our garbage. Unfortunately, that's the number one thing that might attract them to our areas: compost, recycling. Even if you wash out, your plastic containers and your cans, their sense of smell is so good. They'll find it and they'll check it out. Some unexpected things like birdseed, if you have outdoor freezers, barbecues, pet food, are all things that are going to give them calories. So they're going to be looking for that. And another thing about bears is that they actually have incredible food memories. And so if they do come into your yard and get access to some sort of food source, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to come back. And so if you are seeing them in your yard, bears, deer, whatever, what is it that they're accessing? What can you do to secure it and keep it safe so that they're not coming back?
Good idea.
Especially with deer as well. Sorry, I always like to share this because I think it's so important. A lot of people, when they see deer in their yard, they might not think it is that big of a deal. And so they let them wander through, and they are a beautiful animal. But obviously they can still do damage. They have really sharp hooves. They can cause injuries. But they're also a food source for a lot of predators. And so if you have these deer in your yard, what else might be attracted to the area to try and not necessarily get what's in your yard, but the animals that are feeding from what they might be able to access.
It's nice to see nature, but when nature is in our backyard, whether it's, something planted or something that's just wandering through, it's important to obviously enjoy their presence, but enjoy it safely and make sure that you don't either become a buffet or plant a buffet.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're still in winter, but of course, winter will eventually come to an end. Spring is going to come, and then summer. And because of where Fort St. John is, everybody has really active lifestyles. People will be in parks and trails. What do you recommend people keep in mind or kind of be proactive about during this time insofar as wildlife safety?
It's always important to be aware of your surroundings. So when you're going out and you're recreating, that is wonderful, but watch for signs of animals in the area. So it might be footprints in the snow or in the mud. It could be fresh scat, different signs. If you do see something that is cause for concern, and let's say you're going for a hike, the safest thing is to actually go back the way that you came, because you've already been that way and it's safe, rather than going forward into the unknown. We, of course, love when you're out there for people to carry bear spray. It's proven to be over 90% effective. It's called bear spray, but it's good for all wildlife that might be approaching. Wildcats tend to be more active right now. We might see more activity from them versus bears or something. So if it's bears, wolves, wildcats, whatever it is, bear spray is going to help protect you. If you have pets, dogs in particular, are obviously wonderful. I always call them an early alert system. They might detect danger or wildlife before we're aware of what's happening. But you want to make sure that you're keeping them on a leash because they are involved in usually 50% of human bear encounters. So if you have a dog that might go check out what it is that's alerting them, and then they run back towards their people. Animal sees them running. Often dogs are perceived as either a threat or a food source, so the wildlife might chase. And then that could be a dangerous situation. So it's great to have your dogs, but you want to make sure they're on leash and that you're protecting them in return.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Tara. That was very informative, and hopefully everyone can stay safe up here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. That was Tara Pejski. Big thanks to Julia Hintermeister and Asuncion Star Maria for joining us today, and thank you for tuning in.
You can listen to the show again by checking out the podcast at energeticcity.ca/podcast. I also recommend you take some time to check out our award-winning locally produced podcast Before the Peace there as well. That's our show for today. I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Caitlin Coombs. We'll see you next time.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at energeticcity.ca.